Okay, we're going to start the safety meeting. This is a requirement for the DOT regulations. It's also a requirement to pass along the information necessary that's going to affect you in the job. So we try to keep this pertinent and focused to what's happening and what accident trends are taking place and what things are affecting the regulation and the enforcement. So I'd like to welcome you to the June 4th quarterly driver safety meeting. Okay. The first thing that's going to happen is next week, June 7th through 9th, is going to be the International Road Check, the 72-hour blitz. What's going to be the emphasis? Well, usually they emphasize, but then they include everything. So the emphasis is going to be on tires. You're going to have to make sure that all your tires are in excellent shape. Now, that's not the only thing they're going to be concerned with. You should be prepared to be inspected every day, but just not only during the 72-hour blitz. Safety is always important. Why? Well, one of the reasons is the effect of number of fatalities. In 2014, we're looking at 4161. 2015, which they don't have the figures on, is looking like it's going to be at least an 8% increase. Where did these accidents take place? The dark blue are the fatal large truck accidents. The yellow ones are buses. If you notice, there seems to be a few in this area. In fact, for the top 10 in the 2014, Indiana, Illinois, and Ohio are within the first top 10. So what does this mean? 48% of all the large truck accidents in 2014 were out of these top 10. This is going to influence the number of inspections because there's a direct correlation between the number of accidents, number of injuries, and the number of fatalities, and what states are going to emphasize and increase their inspection rates. So Texas had the highest fatality rate. Texas has the highest inspection rate per U.S. mile for all highways in the state of Texas. They average 1 for every 10 miles. And how many miles of U.S. highways are there in Texas? Lots. Now, if you know what this is, and you've got some of this growing in the back of your backyard or drying up in your barn, we're going to have cups lined up in the back, and we'll have a little testing. Marijuana has taken on a new importance. Why? Because this year, many states are going to have this on their ballots to legalize the use for medical purposes and or recreational purposes. It is not legal at any point, at any time, for a commercial motor vehicle to use marijuana and drive in a commercial basis. So if this is your plan, I don't care if it's legal in your state of record or not. You cannot do this and drive commercially. Washington has legalized its use specifically, and AAA did a study on this and basically said the four-wheelers are out here, it's done by recreation, and within 2 years their DUI rate has doubled. Now, basically, that's a big surprise to people. The FAST Act. The FAST Act became and was passed on December 4th of last year. This is the first multi-year funding plan for the highway system. It's also having a large effect on the regulations and the laws and the processes that are being used throughout. It deals with CSA. How does it deal with it? Well, it took all the alerts and all the numbers off the program. So it's no longer public. It also killed the 34-hour restart. But you realize, of course, that the 34-hour restart is still being enforced in the way it has been. Now, Congress was supposed to correct this oversight. Unfortunately, they have not done so. It's been attached to many different bills. It's been addressed many different ways, but so far it's not been. So when you combine politics and regulation, you have problems. So even though it was removed, are they going to stay off the public site until the full review by the DOT Inspector General? That's the plan. It's supposed to be done within 18 months. Then the corrective action plan's another 120 days. And then DOTIG has to present it to a congressional committee in the House. So the official time schedule, February 4th, 2018. You can probably add 2019, 2020, 2021, because the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration has a very consistent track record. You give them the deadline and they basically ignore it, and it goes on for years and years and years. However, the absolute measures were put on the federal site with the March release of the CSA scores. And basically it's because they have one sentence in this act that said you will put out absolute measures. So one sentence in a document that's probably 1,200 pages. And that's the problem when you start mingling regulations with bills. So percentile scores and alert statuses are no longer public, but the absolute measures are. So what does that mean? People are going to interpret that, good or bad, also. The roadside inspections rates are still there. The motor carrier out of service rates are still there. The operating authority status, insurance, carrier safety rating, satisfactory, conditional, unset, are still public. But when you put bills, regulations, procedures, and politics together, you muddy the waters. And in this case, it's like the big sucking action. So, House subcommittees have made recommendations to full Transportation Committee. The House has a bill to keep the 73 hour now, and reset after the 34-hour restart. The Senate has a bill to turn back the 34-hour restart to include the two periods that would be from 1 to 5 in order for it to count for a full restart. So Congress can add, change, delay, or drop at a whim bills or attachments so that there is no consistent procedure when any subject is in the political arena. Bills or attachment can die in committee, can be delayed by political tactics, and never be brought up for a vote. As they decide whether to pass or not pass, change or modify, did I mention that many politicians are in favor of legalizing marijuana? And so the question has to be asked, is there any relationship here between their wanting to do this and screw up everything else? Coercion. The final law, final rule was passed, released 11/30/2015. Prohibits motor carriers, shippers, receivers, transportation intermediaries, which includes brokers, from coercing a driver to violate the federal motor carrier safety regulations. This includes hours of service, CDL regulations, drug and alcohol, and hazardous regulations. It finally went into effect January 29th, 2016. That leads into paperless logs, or the electronic logging device rule. That went in and became effective December 10th. Our pedigree system currently meets the ELD requirements for 2017. By the end of this year, it will meet all the requirements that we would have to comply with by 2019. So we're going to be fully compliant well ahead of the game. It does affect all Class 7 and 8 trucks unless they're in a driveway or a commercial motor vehicle is older than 2000, because it has to tie in to the engine. Paper logs, time cards. 100-mile radius, it's up to the company. If you're a 100-mile radius truck, we have you do logs anyway. Driver that does not drive more than 8 days in any 30-day period. This is for the casual driver. And then commercial motor vehicles that older than 2000 model year. Supporting documents, currently it's at 8 days, it goes back to 13. Of course, from your standpoint, if you want to be paid, you have to turn that in, and company policy is as soon as you're done with the load, you scan it and send everything in to us, because we have to process it. Not only to bill it, but to pay you or settle the truck. Your supporting documents, bill of lading, schedules, itineraries, trip reports, expense receipts, all that has to be kept. The ELD, when it's you're driving on duty, will be accurate within 1 mile. If you're on personal conveyance, it's within 10 miles. The transfer, once this completely goes into effect, they will not, the inspectors will not even have to look at your material. They will walk up, they will have a device by Bluetooth or wireless web and be able to download your last 7 days. So you won't have to show them anything, you won't have to give them anything. They'll just walk up, go zap, okay, I got your last 7 days. Now, currently the limited edits are described, but they don't give us a number. So I don't know if this is going to be an interpretation by the inspector or whether later on they're going to address this. ELD has to provide it by printing it or by showing it on a screen if called upon. Commercial motor vehicle safety belt usage up through 2013. This is showing a greater use by the commercial motor vehicles. Why? Because most of the old guys that said, I don't use seat belts are either retiring or dying. So the younger people realize, the younger driver realizes that if you wear your seat belt, you're probably going to be better off. So the usage has gone up. If you have a seat belt, you can reduce your, by 50%, the fact that you may be killed in an accident. The 5th most common roadside inspection violation was a driver not having a seat belt. The commercial motor driver usage by region, we're not at the lowest usage, but we're close. The Northeast has the lowest, the West has the highest. We're sort of in between. So there is also a proposed rule that the driver has to have a seat belt, but also now the passenger. So the comment period in this ended. So far, no data publication. Railroad crossing. We cannot emphasize enough the idea that you have to follow the steps of when you're approaching a railroad crossing with an oversized load in any state, you should go through every one of these steps. Review the permit and instructions. look to see if there's something specific in that state that requires a call to the railroad before crossing. Evaluate it. Make sure that you can go over it safely. Call the railroad, determine the window. This would have saved us from the May 14th, 2015, because he got stuck and the point of impact was 3 minutes and 1 second later. That was 8:47 in the morning. The next train to go scheduled on that track was 2,300 hours. So override the airbags, get it up as high as you can for maximum clearance. If you have a two-speed rear end, put it in low. Engage the power divider. No shifting of the gears going over the railroad crossing. If you encounter any problems, call the railroad first. Do not call me and say, hey, I'm stuck. If you called the railroad, no. Call the railroad first, then call me. Where would the phone numbers be? This is the traditional place where the phone numbers are posted at any railroad crossing. Sometimes they're used for target practice. That's why the sheet that we give you has all the major railroad phone numbers on it. Now, the only thing that's constant in life is change. I thought this was something cosmic, but it's something that was said by a Greek philosopher way back in 853 BC. So, expected publication dates, speed limiter. Is it going to happen? Yes. What will the speed be? We don't know. Could be as low as 62, could be as high as 68, could be anywhere in between. When was it supposed to be published? Last year? This year? Congress has now told FMCSA by December 2016 this has to be published. Will they pay attention? I don't know. The Drug and Alcohol Clearinghouse. It was sent to the Office of Management and Budget on May 20th. Projected release date is August 29th. But you can write that in chalk because chances are they'll change that. What does that mean? Basically, any drug screen that you take, period, anywhere that goes through any lab, results will be reported and kept. And once a year, current drivers will have to be checked and any new prospective drivers. So the individuals who would get a positive on a pre-employment, wait a few days, go someplace else, not tell them that, pass it. This is going to catch every drug screen done for any reason anywhere in the United States. Hair testing. It's going to happen. They're going to do the hair testing for drugs, and they cannot test for alcohol, but they can do it for drugs. It's much more accurate. When will it take place? Don't know. Insulin-dependent drivers and driving on the interstate highways. This again is being proposed, no release date. The only concern I have with this is it has to be well-controlled diabetes. If you've ever seen anyone go into a diabetic shock and you think of them being on a road going 60 miles an hour, not a good thing. Now, we do not have vans, but we are concerned about heights. Now, what I find appropriate here is on the road to success, there are no shortcuts. Seems to be very appropriate. He's not delivering the bridge. He knows what his height is within a couple inches. Why? Because how many variables do you have here? Low pro tires, standard height tires, high profile fifth wheel, low profile fifth wheel. You pretty much know what your height is. And yet, things like this happen all the time. This is probably oh, an expensive repair of a van like this might be as high as $4,000. And you're going, wow, that's a lot of money, except when you consider what we haul. So, do you know the height? Do you have the plan to succeed? Because unless you have the plan to succeed and know the height of your load, then you're not prepared for success. Because unless you know that height, and unless you have a consistent way of measuring, you're guessing. And guessing here is people tell me, well, I measure from here to the floor, then I do this, the floor to the ground, and then I add them together. And that's great if you're used to adding tenths, but most people don't add twelfths too good. Don't consider it. There's a problem. So, usually you come up with the wrong answer. And why? Because you're trying to use a tape. So, know your height, your load by using a height stick. It's better than using a tape. It goes directly to the ground. You measure it in multiple locations, and you know how high you are, how high you may be. And if you're going to be used blocking, how high the blocking is going to put you up in the air. So, if you're down on the floor of the trailer, great. But if you're going to have blocking, before you detach from the crane, make sure you know the height. So if you have to adjust it, you can do it at that time. The time you spend measuring will keep you from a costly cargo or liability. This was not our accident, thank God, but this is an accident that took place in Texas. And no, this is not a new construction of a bridge with the open air effect. So not only do they have a problem here with the tank, which the first tank's sitting upright and the second tank's knocked off, I don't think that tank's going to cost as much as that overpass is going to cost. Just sort of makes me think that a few $1 million is going to be tied up here. TWIC. You have a TWIC card, that's great. It's becoming more and more necessary to have a TWIC card to get into the ports. The TWIC card is much more easily gotten now as long as you have a certified birth certificate. You can go in with that or a passport. You can get your TWIC. Do not allow your TWIC to expire. You can do it online and they'll mail you the renewal. They've changed the procedure now. But they will not accept for a TWIC the normal things that they did before. Social Security card, voter's card, registrations of this and that, because now it's the birth certificate. And they now have a PIN number. You establish the PIN number when you get the card. But if you've gone years and you go, wow, I have no idea what that TWIC PIN number is, you can go into any office and they have what's an ITM, looks like an ATM machine, and you can reset your TWIC. You don't have to have an appointment. You can just walk in and do it. Because we've had a couple instances, a couple ports where they've asked the driver that and they've gone, what? I don't know what the hell it is. Department of Navy and Department of Energy. Not only do you have to have a TWIC and a CDL or a passport, you have to have a proof of citizenship. So you have to have a certified copy of your birth certificate, unless you have a military or active or retired ID. There continue to be, within 25-mile radius, 203 medical examiners in the 25-mile radius of Burns Harbor. The number of medical examiners across the company, or across the country, has probably reached about 55,000, so you shouldn't have any problem. these are the people you have to have the physicals from. You cannot pick and choose anymore. If they're not on the National Registry, you can't use them. So you can do a search in any area that you're at on the Federal Motor Carrier site, and you can find a medical examiner who's on the National Registry if you do for a physical and for renewal, or we can help you out with that. Now, the CDL and the medical certificate are going to be tied together, are currently tied together. In the future, by the end of next year, will even be more tied together. Until that time, keep a copy of the long form physical with you. Each state requires you to submit that by whatever means. Make sure anytime you get a physical, the medical examiner is supposed to do it. Don't count on them. This is your livelihood. You make sure that you put it on file with the state. So, keep your address current on your driver's license. If you've moved, change the address. Why? Because as sophisticated as they are with everything, they will communicate with you as a driver by only one means, U.S. mail. And when they send something to you by U.S. mail, they will have up in the upper left-hand corner to the post office, do not forward. So if your official address looks like this, or somebody's at your official address that doesn't like you anymore, and it's not going to forward your mail, but it's going to either shred it or burn it, you're in deep trouble, because the only way you're going to find out your problem is by that notice put in U.S. mail. Interesting. Wonder how that happened. All right. The CPAP machine. Obstructive sleep apnea. This is a combined effort between the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration and the Federal Railroad Administration. Why? Because it affects operators, safety-sensitive positions. The comment period ends next week. Then it's going to go into effect. Why is it important? Moderate to severe can cause a person to experience all of these items. Unintended sleep consequences. Seems to be important when you're driving, for some reason. Lack of attention, another reason it might be important, driving or putting a train down the tracks. Loss of concentration, lack of situational awareness, loss of memory, the loss of the ability to safely respond to hazards. All these things are associated with obstructive sleep apnea. Risk factor, obesity, male gender, advancing age, family history, neck size over 17 inches, and anatomically small throat. What's associated with it? Hypertension, diabetes, obesity, dysrhythmias, myocardial infarction, otherwise known as heart attacks, strokes, and sudden cardiac death. Now, you say in the realm of everything, this is sort of important. You have any one of these things, it's going to affect you. Not only affect you by your ability to work, but may affect your life. So, it seems like you might want to pay attention to this. So, the apnea fairy. I'm here to make a wake-up call. 10:30, 10:47, 10:53, 11:02, and on and on. That's what effectively happens with sleep apnea, whether you realize it or not. So you have a symptom, loud snoring. My God, if your spouse is saying, I'm in a room 2 rooms away with both doors shut and I can still hear you, ha ha ha, you've got a problem. Breathing cessation, someone who's watching you sleep and you stop breathing for periods of 30 seconds up to 2 minutes. That's sort of a problem. Abrupt awakenings accompanied by shortness of breath. It's not because you just had that terrible nightmare where something that is indistinguishable is chasing you. You keep waking up going, oh, and awakening with a dry mouth, sore throat, or morning headache. Not because of the partying the night before. Difficulty staying asleep. You're an insomniac. Excessive daytime sleepiness, attention problems, and irritability. Okay. Why is everybody looking at me? Okay. Hours of service, specifically the 30-minute break. The first waiver was given out and had the first, it was originally approved to 6/18/17. You have to have a copy of this waiver with you. Why? Because the inspectors don't know about it. The cutbacks in the state, they're taking away their phones, they're taking away their laptops, they're taking away their ability. So they don't know, they don't have the information. Until they see the letter from you, that's when they say, oh, okay, you guys have an exemption. Now, that's only when you're under permit. If you're empty or have under a legal load, you still have to comply with it. But one of the things that took place with this was all exemptions, instead of being for 2 years, are now pushed out for 5. So the exemption for the 30-minute is now 6/18/20. Make sure you have a copy of this new letter. If you need one today, I happen to have a copy up here. It has the extension of the time frame. Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance. This is who does the inspections. This is who does the standardization of the inspections. They are also the ones who formally complained to federal motor carriers saying you're giving out too many exemptions for hours of service. How are we supposed to keep this straight? Oh, breaking my heart here. So, permit routes. When you have a permit route, read the permit, look at the map prior to leaving, know where the route's going to go, cover this with the escorts on a daily basis the night before, and you as the driver's in charge. The escorts aren't calling the shots, you are. So if you're having a problem with an escort, let the office know about it at the time, not 2 weeks later saying, boy, that escort I had 2 weeks ago really sucked. Oh, that would have been nice. We've had them on 2 loads since then. Now, it would be nice if this was posted and people would say, yes, this is permit load. Let's be kind to them. Let's be patient with them. Yeah. Road signs and you're lost. Just don't wander around with a oversized load. Stop and call. Never rely on the GPS on any load, because you never know where you're going to end up. Indiana treats any permit violation, oversize, off route, over length, over height, any permit violation as a civil fine. And they will, from 3 to 12 months later, issue a civil fine for $1,000. So in the state of Indiana, if you have a permit violation, you can expect that there's going to be a civil fine associated with it at some point. Now, one of the things I posted that also concerns any driver with an Indiana CDL, Indiana only, is they passed a law at the first of the year that if you are moving a non-permit load and you're overweight, in the past there were no points associated with it. It was just fine. State of Indiana, now with a non-permitted overweight load, will give you 4 points on your CDL. So, something else that has to be accounted for. Will Indiana be the only state that does this? Don't know. Do you have the current provision sheets for the permitted load that you have? With this attachment that you can put on your smartphone, you can get every provision sheet. So the provision sheet may not change, the permit does, but are you accurate? You have to have the permit and the provision sheet for every state you're moving in. So you can download this, you can look up the state code, and you can print it off. Driving for green, there are still 6 tests out there that you can get 5,000 points each by passing by 70%. These are out of service pictures right out of the CVSA inspector's training manual. Some very nice pictures. Every picture depicts an out of service. Some of these tests range between 20. I've got one for 30 and one for 10. Some are very simple. Some of them you'll be gonna go, what is this? This is a training. If you don't know the answer, you can find out the answer. It may be necessary for you to do so. So, where's it at? It's under quizzes. It gives you the ability, you can click on it, and you can take those and you can get 5,000 points each in driving for green. Superload checklist, supposed to be completed every day prior to starting. Load securement is one of the most important things we can deal with. Just because the regulations say you're secure, does that mean you have enough on there? If you have extra straps, extra chains in the headache rack, what good does it do to have them there? Put them on if you can. An extra few minutes will save you hours of explaining. Uh-oh. Now, on the website, through yesterday, we went 64 days without a driver out of service inspection. We've gone 51 days without a load securement. 23 days without a equipment out of service, and 7 days since DOT reportable accident. I, on Monday through Friday, update this on a daily basis, giving you an idea how things are going. Now, DOT reportable accident, that was non-preventable. Doesn't make any difference. It's still going to be a reportable that's going to count against us. So, under the CSA program, the 5-year bill under FAST says you shouldn't reach any conclusions here unless the company has an unsatisfactory rating. Otherwise, they should be able to operate anywhere in the United States. So, do people pay attention to this? No, they pay attention to what is going to happen here. Definition of high risk. It's a new program. They put it out here. Anybody who has 90th percentile or above in 2 or more basics for 2 consecutive months would be identified as high risk. Comment period ended 5/6. This is a part of an FAA bill. Wow, FAA funding. How did that happen? FMCSA? RTA? Nah, FAA. So, they have not proposed any release date. But now again, it's in a bill in Congress. The bill in Congress is saying you can't do anything until the full review is done. So, who knows? Now, one of the things in the FAST Act is determine the accuracy of the basic safety measures to identify high-risk carriers. Seems like this would have been a nice thing to do in 2010 or 2011, but here we are in 2016, being live in the program for 5 years, and now they're going to go back and say, identify if the CSA identifies high-risk carriers or not. Interesting. A walk-around daily inspection. When was the last time anybody did the 107 points and can name them off as they walk around? I did an analysis of the last snapshot, which came out, officially ended on 4/29/16. So in the 24 months prior, I went back and looked and said, okay, from the time of a tractor having a violation and the inspection, the 90-day inspection that we're now doing, how many days took place? So with tractors, we had 89 tractors with violations with an average of 81 days since the DOT inspection. Broken down even further, 13 of these were company with an average of 84 days since DOT. Fleet, 14 with an average of 100 days. Owner-operator, 17 with an average of 63. With trailers, there were 39 with violations, had an average of 154 days. Again, breaking it down, company, 9 with an average of 159 days. Fleet, 12 with an average of 111. Owner-operator, 18 with an average of 155 days since the DOT inspection. Clean inspections in level 1 and level 2 only, because level 3 is what? It's just you. So looking at the equipment, 60 overall with 107 days. Company, 35 with an average of 119 days. Fleet, 7 with an average of 60. Owner-operator, 18 with an average of 101 days. The trailer average was 148 days since last DOT. So you have to realize this goes back over 24 months. This was during the time frame that we switched to the 90-day. So what's the moral of the story? You cannot count on just having the DOT inspections find all the problems, even though they're completed in a 90-day interval. You, as the driver, have to look over and inspect your equipment on a daily basis. Find the problems, fix the problems before they are found on a roadside inspection. That's what it's all about. Our maintenance scores, which are currently above threshold, need to go below threshold and continue to trend downward. The only way this can happen is by you, the driver, doing the daily pre-trip inspection. Now, from the basics themselves, the unsafe driving, the threshold was 65. We are currently at 35. Now, I want you to pay a little attention here to the performance measure, the absolute numbers, because I want you to see how these change in relationship between each basic. This one's currently at 2.69. Average is 1.58. The highest is 145. Hate to be that carrier. So how does this go? We are trending down. We came back up. We're sort of washing around. This again is moving violations. What are they? Seat belt. Last 24 months, we've had 3 of those, so that's 7 points each. Failure to obey traffic control devices, 4. Improper lane change, 2. Lane restriction violations, 6. Speeding, 6 to 10 above, 2. 11 to 14, 3. Failing to use hazard warning, 1. Hours of service, threshold is 65, we're at 61. Performance measure, 0.81. The other one was 2.69, 0.81. Industry average, 0.77. Industry high, 30. Again, The absolute measure is now public in these areas. This is what the carrier, the brokers, the insurance people are going to use to evaluate us. We are tracking, have tracked down. Hopefully we will continue to track down as we get more people on electronic logs. Beyond the 14-hour, 3. Beyond the 8-hour violation, 6. Form and manner, 10. Not having a log, 1. Record of duty status not current, 13. Still the highest number. Failure to have the previous 7 days. 2 of those were people who had electronic logs, but they'd crashed. They couldn't produce them. One didn't have his unit with him, and the other one didn't work. Doesn't make any difference. You have to have the last 7 days. False log, 3. 11-hour. 14-hour. Driver fitness. Threshold is 80. Our score is 66. Absolute measure, 0.12. Industry average, 0.17. High, 30. We had dropped because we'd gone a year, even though we had 6 events in this 24 months. Once you have 5 events, you're scored. If you go a year, you don't have anything, it drops. And then our problem with the alcohol, his license was also suspended, unbeknownst to us, even though we have an auto monitoring system. And his license was suspended, so we bounced back up. So, suspended for non-safety related, for safety related or unknown reason, operating a commercial boat without a CDL, disqualified, lacking physical qualifications, suspended for non-safety reason. Non-safety and outside the state, suspended for safety related unknown reasons outside the state. These were for bills for fines that were not paid years before, suspension for child support, things like that. Controlled substance. Up to this point, we'd always had zeros. Now we have 1 event. You have 1 event, you're scored. We're at 22 with a threshold of 80. Absolute measure, 0.6. Industry average, 0.007. So with 1 inspection, we will have 1 event, we will be scored. And until this drops off in 24 months, we will continue to be scored. Possession and under the influence. 1 event, 1 time. Threshold for maintenance. We're at 81. Absolutes 5.2, the industry average of 3.39. You say, what's the relationship between the basics and the absolute measures? They're independent. You're not even supposed to consider them. They're independent. They don't mean anything except in their own basic. So you can see how it started tracking down and then started changing direction. We have to get it trending down again. Below threshold initially, but basically trending down. And the number of reasons why we're having violations, you can repeat after me. Brake lights and tires, brake lights and tires, brake lights and tires, because this is essentially what it is. Turn signals, tail lights, stop lights, a few other things moved in there with a number of violations, but essentially brakes, lights, and tires. Lamps, fire extinguishers, oil and grease. You're always going to have the oil and grease ones. Why? Show me a brand new tractor that doesn't have oil and grease on it. But, you know, brakes, lights, and tires are the easiest things, not only for the inspectors to see, but also you. That's why there's so many of them written up, because they can see it. They don't have to crawl underneath it. They can look. They can see it. If they can see it, you can see it. Load securement is also within the maintenance basic. Cargo shifting, damaged securement, damaged dunnage bars, insufficient working load limit, loose, minimum tie down, insufficient, and improper machinery securement. And what do? We haul machinery. Should that have ever happened? No. Everything that's on the trailer, whether that's blocks, chains, mud, stones, bungee straps, that's an insecure load. One of the insecure loads we had was a spare tire, didn't have a chain through it. The other one had an oil can sitting on the fifth wheel plate. Had a bungee strap over it, bungee strap had broken. The inspector told him, if that bungee strap hadn't broken, you'd been okay. What's the working load limit of a bungee strap? There ain't no working load limit. So, the mere fact that he had it on there, and the guy goes, oh, if that'd been all right, if that bungee strap had been across there, you'd been fine. Yeah. HAZMAT, we have no HAZMAT inspections. Crash indicator, currently our score is 11% percentile. Performance measures 0.13. These are the things, these are the ones the feds really pay attention to, this one specifically. We have 7 events in this, 4 of them are non-preventable. Next one will fall off end of this month, so we'll be down to 6 as long as, but depending upon whether they recognize this last one or not, even though it's non-preventable, it'll be more current. So, the crash waiting, preventability, non-preventability, that was done and completed on March 25th, 2015. So far, they haven't released any results of that. The 5-year plan, the FAST Act, required review of this. And they're supposed to come up with a solution by December 4th of 2016. Will they? They will eventually, but I don't know what year. Now, the carriers and the CSA scores. There are currently about 435,000 carriers. About 14% of those have enough events to be scored in any one basic. So that means all of us who are scored, we're only about just under 61,000 out of this 435,000. So 374,000 have 0 no CSA scores. Does that mean they're safer than those carriers with scores? Not in a heartbeat. They just don't have enough events or enough inspections to have a score. Doesn't mean they're any safer. Safety fitness determination. The continue, operate, identify. This has all been put on hold. They were supposed to have passed this almost 5 years ago. They haven't done it yet. Doesn't look like they're going to do it now. Why? Because they have the proposal for the unfit. And any carrier on this will have to be at 96 percentile and above. Comments are due by the end of this month, 6/21. Calculators out there. But now, this is only going to affect about 2,500 carriers. But Congress has addressed this in a bunch of amendments to bills, basically saying, you can't do this, we don't want you doing this, we're going to cut off your funding if you do this. So I don't think this is ever going to happen. So currently we're under satisfactory, conditional, or unsatisfactory. But of those 435,000 carriers, 86% of them are not rated. They have never been inspected. Inspections, we have incentives, positive incentives. Not to beat you around the head, we are going to give you points. We are going to give you lauds. I'm going to proclaim your name to the masses and say, what a great driver you are because you got a clean inspection. Level 3, 5,000, level 2, 10,000, level 1, 20,000. All roadside inspection sheets have to be scanned in and sent in to us immediately. Why? Because most states say you have to sign this as a company representative. You have to send this back to us within a short period of days, anywhere between 10 and 15 days. And then we have to keep a copy of this in our files so that the inspectors come in, they can see the roadside inspections. As of Friday, yesterday, we have 40 inspections year to date. 12 of those are clean, 8 of them are out of service, 2 for driver, 4 for equipment, and 2 for load. Trip sheets, load numbers, unit numbers, all these things, bill of lading numbers. Even though you're scanning this in, put your trip number and your information on here so we know who you are. Lights on for safety. Lights on for safety. Lights on for safety. You've heard the ad on the radio. People say you have to say things 3 times in order for people to remember it. Lights on for safety. If you're moving, put your lights on. It may help you see, but it'll help you be seen. Personal protective equipment. This is about protecting you. You are the person who this affects. Hard hat, safety glasses, steel-toed work boots, hearing protection, long sleeve shirts, long pants, reflective safety vest. Safety first. This is concerning you. This is your personal safety. So these are the things that we pretty much want you to have. The goggles, the hard hat, gloves, boots, high visibility vest. How often do I have to say it? Personal protective equipment shows that you're the professional driver. You go into a facility, you have your PPE on. I don't care whether the drivers from the other companies don't have their on. I don't care if they make fun of you. You're the professional and they're the yahoos. Okay? So you're at a job site, customer facility. If you're at a truck stop, you guys all tell me the same things. I was at this truck stop, I'm in the back 40, they ain't got no lights, they ain't got no cameras, it's raining and it's dark, and you're walking in to go to the bathroom, get something to eat. Who's going to see you? It's better to be seen than when you're walking than being hit. So the reflection here is for bicyclists, but for you walking in a parking lot, you know, priority, I had the retired bank manager who became a truck driver. He got hit as he walked in Texas in the dark, in the rain, in the fog. Guy never saw him. It was just great that the parking lot was gravel because he drug him for 300 feet. He never stopped because he never saw him. And we spent a lot of time and effort trying to track down that driver by the security cameras. White van, white tractor, too far away. Get out and look. When? Before you back. It can be, accident prevention can be as simple as getting out and looking, having your mirrors adjusted correctly, maintaining contact with the escorts, not trusting site riggers for obstacle clearance. Back it up, back it up, back it up. Oh, stop. No, too late. You already knew that because you already hit it. Not being distracted while driving. So, The cars aren't quite this small, but they are the smart cars by relation. This happens to be a mining accident with an oversized thing, but really, the smaller the cars are getting, the trucks are getting bigger, and the cars are getting smaller. Accident reporting. The basic plan. Have the basic plan in your mind. You've all been through my orientation. You all heard the same thing. Nobody expects to call me. If there's one consistent thing I hear from drivers, it's one thing. You're the person I don't want to call. I'm never going to call you. And I'm going, really? Okay, I hope that's true. For as many years as you're here, I hope that's true. But in reality, have a plan in your mind. What are you going to do? First, you're always going to stop, turn on your four-ways, call the police, set your triangles, and then pictures, documentations, and call me. Pictures, pictures, and more pictures. Document, document, document. Always call the police. If you're around the big city and there's no blood, there's no guts, nobody needs to be towed, guess what? They're probably going to tell you, we ain't coming. Exchange your information. We ain't coming. But if you can get them to come out, please do. DOT reportable accident, fatality, injury, and by injury it can be as simple as hysteria, but they were taken away by ambulance. A vehicle that has to be towed from the scene. These are all DOT reportable accidents. ISSD, the inspection selection system. Where are we at? We're currently at 74. We're still amber, but we're right below red. We're still amber. We were down 42, 43, and because we went in alert status and maintenance, we go from 43 up to 74. That's how important this is. Roadside inspections. This is from 2009 forward. The top blue line shows number of roadside inspections. The pink line shows the out of service. The driver in dark. And you can see the vast majority of what we have recently are equipment, but we do have some driver. Type of accidents, hit by vehicle 2, the most pronounced. Hit fixed object, that's our second most frequent. Third most frequent, vehicle 1, hit vehicle 2. Overhead, we've gotten lines and we've gotten trees. Hit fixed object, vehicle 1, hit vehicle 2. Fortunately, no rollovers. We don't need any rollovers. Work comp claims, cargo claims, tractor damage. We continue to have the majority of our incidents by what we do out in the highway. The next most frequent is in intersections. Truck stops and shipper and consignees are below that. I can tell you for a fact that this is in reverse in just about every other company there is, vans, reefers, and flatbeds. You'll have your highest incidents in truck stops and shippers and consignees, and one of the lowest is out in the highway. But we are in that specialized group that we're going to be out here with them out on the highway. Summertime. Summertime. Kids are going to be out of school if they're not already. What comes next? Family vacation. Family vacation, everybody remembers it. Four-wheelers normally drive 10 miles in a day back and forth to work are now saying they're going to do 500 miles. Now for you, that's not a big deal. For them, that's so foreign. They're not used to it. They don't know how to do it. But they're going to do it because we only got so much time. We got miles to travel. And they're not the professionals. Longer days in hot weather, Maybe better, but it's more crowded roads. Price of gas is inching its way up, but when you compare it to a year ago, it's still quite a bit lower. So a lot of people are hitting the road this year. In the family vacation, the scenic route has taken on a different aspect. Mom's reading the Kindle, checking emails. Dad's on the phone, checking with the office. They're watching videos in the back and the other one's texting. At least the driver's not texting. But as they drive through the scenic route, it's all lost because everybody's self-contained within their electronic device. And unfortunately, you know this out on the road to be true because they're going down the highway like this. Your summer storms are going to be much more intense with high winds, driving rain, limited visibilities, flash flooding. If you're going to be in the south. But any road surface you're on, they could have been in a drought. You're not there. You don't know. First time it rains, guess what? That road surface becomes as slick as ice because all that oil buildup, all that debris buildup, and now it's slick as ice. The locals know it because they live there, but you're driving through. So this means any rain on any surface, when you're doing there, you have to be prepared. This might be as slick as ice. Your windshield needs to be clear, clean, including taillights, headlights from grime. Your dashboard needs to be uncluttered. And your mirrors need to be adjusted so you can, and clean so you can see as much around you as you can. Your dash has to be clear. Now, everybody is aware of the SUV that tries to pass everybody and then push their way in. So, as long as it's not the truck, which is you. But what is summertime? Road construction. Because as soon as the weather gets nice, the road construction starts. And in the summer, it's in high gear. Every road construction area is active with reduced and restricted traffic, hot weather, heavy traffic, and hot tempers. It's never a good combination. Impatient drivers and construction zones go together like baseball and warm weather. And construction lasts and lasts and lasts. Increase your following distance, decrease your speed. Time and distance is necessary to respond to those idiots around you. That's all you can do. Always signal your intentions, even though they may not, and always have your headlights on. Now, you can take the 694, you can put in any road you want, because it's all going to come down to the same thing. Road construction is going to slow you down. Slips, trips, and falls. Any seasons, this can happen. This is the most common thing for injuries for drivers. Doesn't make any difference. You would say, well, no, it's got to be truck accidents. No, it's not. Slips, trips, and falls. Most of the time it has to do with one thing: climbing in, climbing out of your tractor, climbing up on your trailer, climbing down from your trailer. You've done it 1,000 times, you've done it 10,000 times, you've done it 20,000 times. But that one time when you're not paying attention, when you're thinking of something else and this is automatic, and you slip and you fall, and that's all it takes. Uneven surfaces, debris, job sites, truck stops, high winds, climbing up and putting a tarp on, the high wind comes up, starts raining. Any quick weather change can be ideal for slips, trips, and falls. So always use 3 points of contact when entering or exiting the vehicle. 2 hands and a foot, 2 feet and a hand. It will save you the other options of whatever other 3 areas of your body are going to hit the ground first, because you're going to hit the ground and it's not going to be pleasant. Recruiting incentive for owner operators and company drivers. Current company drivers, owner operators can refer and they'll get driving for green points. Agents will get money. So we always try to encourage the agents. We always encourage the drivers to refer. This is where you're going to primarily get your fuel, because they give us the best fuel incentive. So if you can, fuel within network, and you'll get the biggest return, both as a company driver and owner operator. Are there any questions? Thank you for your attention.